very good morning to everyone who has joined us this morning. Welcome to the Zimpapers public lecture series, where today we have got a different one. We have brought you before the Mutapa Investment Fund public lecture. We also have the Scourge of Counterfeit Products public lecture that we brought to you as Zimpapers. Today we have got beyond the individual, from an economy of entrepreneurs to an economy of institutions. That's what we have today with our keynote speaker being Shingai Mutasa, who is the owner of Sawara Holdings, the owners of Crystal Lodge, the owners of Zimnat, as well as the owners of Minerva. He is going to share with us some insights in terms of what it takes for one to transition from being an individually run business to an institutionally run business. So you're welcome, and hopefully you will be able to take away some key important insights as you go back to your respective stations. The idea, I think I was highlighting it before, that the idea of this meeting is that when we leave this place, if you are into business, if you started a business and it's an individually run business, by the time you leave this place, you should be able to know what it takes for it to be an institution that will last forever, that will last for generations. That's what we want to get Zimbabwe to be at. And we have got our keynote speaker, Mr. Shingai Mutasa, who's going to come in. I'll introduce him a little bit more. But I also want to introduce some of our speakers here that will be on a panel that will come later on in the day. We've got Mr. Bothwell Nyajeka, who is right here on my immediate left. Mr. Bothwell Nyajeka is a business executive. We have known him for years, and he is still imparting that knowledge, and you'll be able to share more insights with us. We also have Batanai Mkonzo from CBZ. He's the head of SME banking, so he's got an idea of what is needed. And I'm sure Mr. Mtambanengwe, who is also here from the SMEs Association of Zimbabwe, we have one or two things to request from Mr. Mkonzo there to make sure that the SMEs are well catered for. And then we also have from CROI, we have got Tabo here. Zimbabwe has gone through quite a number of companies that have gone under corporate rescue and things like that, and you'll be also sharing some insights with regards to that. And we also have the only lady amongst our speakers, that's Nyasha P. Mapolisa. She's an author, she's an executive coach, she's got so many things, and I know what comes from here. This will be my second time to listen to her speak, and we welcome you all, our speakers. Now, without taking much of your time, let me welcome our keynote speaker. That's Mr. Shingai Mutasa. I heard someone calling you Doc. I haven't seen it on your profile, so I'll call you Mr. Mutasa. Samtasa. Okay, yeah. Wasu. All right, over to you, Mr. Mutasa.
Thank you very much, Washara. Yeah, definitely, I'm not a doctor. When I was approached by Zimpapers, I wasn't sure about taking this engagement. Then I realized that if you don't say yes to Zimpapers, you start seeing some negative press happening. So I decided it might be beneficial to take this engagement. But for me, I'd like to spend more time in dialogue after this address, because the subject before us really cannot be exhausted in a speech. It is one that demands interrogation, and therefore we must create the time which will allow us to interrogate it more fully. In my view, the transition from an economy of entrepreneurs to an economy of institutions is very possible. To achieve this, not only must we continue to nurture those entrepreneurs, but most importantly, we have to create the environment for them to migrate and build institutions. For me, an institution is not necessarily a big organization or large buildings or companies with grand headquarters or significant brands. An institution is a set of systems, values, and governance structures that produce reliable outcomes, independent, and this is very important, independent of a single individual. That's what an institution is. As long as the strategy lives in the head of the founder or CEO, or clients' relationships live in his phone or her phone, or the quality standard is whatever the owner would like it to be, this is not a sustainable institution. So we must correct the picture for our future champions, how to become an institution and why there is value for them in attaining such a goal. You know, until Warungu came to our lands, we had strong institutions. We had strong institutions. You know, there's a permanent myth that Africans must first learn how to build institutions. That is not true. We had institutions, they functioned, and they functioned well. We governed ourselves, organized ourselves, and sustained ourselves long before external systems were imposed on us. The fact that fragments of those systems still exist in practice and in memory tells us something critical. We're not trying to invent capacity, we're trying to recover it. And so how do we do this? I strongly believe that before we do this, we must understand that those countries who've succeeded in this journey have done so on the basis of critical ingredients. And you'll be surprised, it is not capital, neither is it technology or even policy, but a strong sense of self-belief. Self-belief in their vision, in their leadership, and in themselves. That is what creates sustainable and successful institutions. You know, we can look at many countries that have done this. China, Dubai, South Korea, America, and we can go through the list. But as I've looked also closer to home, there's an example that I'd like us to always remember, and it takes us back to 1964. That was the creation of ZANU. It's men and women of this age getting together, deciding that they wanted to change the course of their history. And they built institutions to make it happen. There were times when people would say, not in 1,000 years. It took 16 years from that point to the delivery of their vision, which tells me that it's a capability that we have, that it is there, and we should follow that capacity within ourselves. Strong vision, clarity, and self-belief. For me, unless we have the same level of clarity, we will continue as a country, as a region, to sway backwards and forwards. So why is this narrative important to us? Because it tells us that it is within us to achieve great visions. The exciting thing for me is that we have already proven we are capable of conceiving great visions and, more importantly, on executing them. However, if we do not focus the minds of our people, we will not go anywhere, nor will we build anything that will persist. Before I move forward, I want to be clear. At the individual level, it is very possible for some of us to migrate from entrepreneurs to institutions. And we have examples, Stripe, Masiwa, Dangote. And there are many that are out there that have achieved that. But for nations to achieve it, we have to act as a community at large and build visions that encompass nationhood. That is what I really want to talk about today. At an individual level, I'm still on that journey of trying to build an institution. It's not easy. But very early on, I made it one of my goals that I wanted to build something that would be able to outlast what I'm doing. That decision meant that from the very early stages, I made certain practical decisions in achieving that. And that's part of the thing that I'd like to impart today. So what is it that we need to focus our minds on? If I look at most nations that succeed, there are common ingredients. They tend to have strong self-identity as a people. And I keep on talking about identity. If you don't believe in yourself fundamentally, you cannot win. You have to understand that. Your culture. If you do not embrace your culture and develop your culture, you're always going to be using somebody else's. And when you come up against that particular person, you will lose because it's his, not yours. Are you with me? Also, an element that defines successful nations is religion. Through their religion, they exalt themselves such that they see themselves as God would see them. Remember, I heard about the Bible. God says, I've made you in my own image. So until you believe that this is the image of God, and not somewhere else in Rome or England, until you truly believe that this is the image of God, you cannot win. Because religion is a critical part of success. And only countries who are so embedded in their self-belief succeed. And that's why religion matters. Unfortunately for us as Africans, and Zimbabweans in particular, I get the feeling that we really don't believe in ourselves. The sense of self-belief that the generations that created ZANU in 1964 seem to have been lost somewhere along the way. We have to recreate that sense of self-belief. And it's a critical component of entrepreneurship going into institution building. I would argue that although gaining independence was a significant step, moving to the next stage of evolution is an even greater challenge. The basis of achieving this and of maintaining this kind of growth is self-belief. Identity, self-belief, your culture, your religion. I want to highlight some of the challenges I strongly believe we have to overcome. Simple as they may seem, they are critical. Identity and how we project ourselves. And I want to give you a few examples of what I mean. Earlier, we talked of the informal sector. For me, this is such a disparaging term. And I hope we one day remove it from our language. I'm not sure where it came from. I assume some Bretton Woods institution somewhere decided that we should be called informal sector. There's nothing informal about most of these sectors, nothing. This is where real business is happening in our context. This is where the real economy lives, not in the banks, no disrespect, but here where our own practices are being realized in a formal and institutional manner. This critical group of entrepreneurs is and will continue to be the future champions of this economy and this region. We must erase the word informal sector. Truly, this is the real economy. This is the real sector. You know, it's the young man running a tuck shop, the woman trading agricultural produce on the road. Have you ever wondered why they locate the selling of the tomatoes where they do? It's not an accident. They have thought about it, and they've decided that is where I'm going to maximize my selling. That is not informal. That is structured business. Our job is to build these institutions around them and with them. Another word that I particularly find offensive is the one a lot of you still use in language called my boy. It's such an insulting word. It's similar to nigger, kafir, kike. Now, most of you know the first two, but you don't know the second one. And you know why you don't know the third one? Kike. This is how Jews were termed before the 70s. It was a derogatory term, just like nigger, just like my boy. The Jews decided we will no longer accept to be called kike. Today, if I asked, most of you would not have known what that word was. And this was in the 70s and 80s. They chose as a people that they would not be derogated by themselves or by others. Yet Isusu, we choose to continue to call ourselves my boy. I hope somewhere along the way we will remove this foul language from our dictionary. Another one, which I want you to understand, and all of these are components of self-belief. Another one, most of you in your language, and I suppose this is what you're taught at school, you call yourselves Wanwatema. Do you understand? You know, 100 years ago, your forefathers called themselves Wanu. The concept of color is a Western construct. Murupazwa. Murungu akati aiwaba mrukutaza ku zitaura. Hamusi wanuba. Murwanu watema. Murukuwaza. Language matters. Informal, real. It matters. And it matters on the mindset that you use to build yourselves. But I say to myself, how can you become something of note if you denigrate yourself within your own language? It's a tough one. And it's important because the people you're coming up against, they have a sense of self-pride, a sense of self-belief in their identity, in their cultures. And that's who you're going to compete against, especially when you are choosing to be like them. It's a problem. You know, even if I live to be 1,000 years, I will never be an Englishman. Never. And even though I speak good English, and unfortunately for me, my English is better than my Shona, I will still never be an Englishman. Are you with me? But my reality is that the value system that I hold, that we hold, is an African value system. That is at the core of whom we are. Not a Western value system or an Eastern value system, which has been pushed into us for the last 140 years. Fortunately, it has failed because we still have the potential to be us. The truth is, I understand Western concepts. However, I've understood that I must continue to be proud of my own so that I do not become deculturalized or decolonized or colonized. It's an important thing because when you are competing, your first line of defense is how you see yourself. It's easy when you're competing against each other because what you do amongst yourselves is not so challenging. It's when you now start wanting to build institutions that go across the borders of this country or that are competing with products that are produced by other cultures and other self-confident human beings. That's when the challenge really takes hold. And that's why it's important at this stage you begin to rebuild your sense of self-worth. If you do not have a sense of self-belief and borrow that of another person, whether Western or Eastern, you will always lack the confidence to be as good or better than them, not only as an individual, but more critically as communities. And that's part of our big challenge as we stand today, not just Zimbabwe, but our region and ultimately our continent. But there are many people who are now speaking a language that I believe is going to help us migrate. For optimal performance and sustainable growth, we have to know ourselves and build institutions that reflect our love of self, knowledge of self, and belief in our cultural base. I've spent time on this issue because I strongly believe that unless we have understood the importance of self-identity, of culture, and of the role of religion in building sustainable institutions, we will be building houses on very shaky ground, and they will not last. I could now spend time on the discussion of how we create the tools to empower SMEs to become institutions, but I'm convinced that until we appreciate the above, we'll be shooting in the dark. If you recall the creation of Command Agriculture, this was the political leadership recognizing that unless we did something significant, our land reform program would be a failure. More importantly, it told me that we have the ability to think and execute programs critical to our self-sustainability. Once we are confident in ourselves our ability to mobilize the critical capital that our future institutions require will be well within our grasp. Once we also are clear about our short and long-term goals, and they embrace who we are, we will achieve them. If we're serious about moving from entrepreneurs to institutions, then we must first begin to institutionalize, I think, 3 things immediately. First, governance. Every serious business must move beyond the personality and build systems that outlive through the founder. And governance is the beginning of doing that. When I started, I didn't have a board. It was my father's bedroom. When I took control of TA, I actually began to realize the importance of governance. The funny thing about governance, when you have a board, you have incredible minds sitting around you, helping you think. And most of the time they do it not because they want something, but they want to help you. That's what I found about the value of boards and governance. So the first thing is about governance. And if the founder disappears, the business must function beyond that disappearance. Second, record keeping and transparency. You cannot scale what you cannot measure. It's not possible unless you're lucky. Not even blessed, lucky. Every entrepreneur, no matter how small, must begin to document, to track and account properly. Third, continuity of knowledge. Skills, relationships, and processes must move from the head of the individual into the structure of the organization. These are not complex ideas, but they are the difference between activity and permanence. Permanence. I want to leave you with one term that is important for us to understand. This may not be the right speech for it, but I want you to keep it in your minds. The term is permanence. It has been erased from our local dictionary because only significant peoples and civilizations talk with permanence in mind. Only. That's why we don't talk about it. We talk short, long, medium. We don't talk permanence. Once we start believing in ourselves again, we will talk permanence. We will have mastered survival as individuals, and now we must master permanence as a people. I'm of the strong belief that there is nothing that should or can prevent us from building institutions out of the incredible depth of entrepreneurs that we already have once we overcome these issues. We have all the resources we need. Great people, incredible land, a region so blessed in its abundance, and amazing regional mineral wealth. The reality, though, is that this cannot be built without an extremely close alignment between our political brothers and sisters, ourselves in business, and the deep state of a country. If that alignment doesn't happen, we will continue to sway side by side. And it is that alignment that has made countries become significant, that has made people within government, people within business recognize that we have to build from our small scale entrepreneurs. It is a critical component of success. But that alignment is critical. Sometimes I say it's unfortunate, but it's the truth. Most importantly, to get maximum performance, this has to be driven by the political class. It's a challenge, but it has to be. I want to end my speech with something that is very simple. We have everything we need, everything, except self-belief. So if anything that you walk away with from this conversation is let's begin to build our self-belief. Thank you.
Short but very powerful presentation from Mutasa. We thank you so much for the insights and knowledge that you have shared with us this morning. But I'm sure as you were speaking, you were opening minds. The people were starting to have questions in terms of what does it mean? How do I move? And maybe further explanation in terms of some of the ideas and insights that we are sharing. So we are going to open the discussions for those who want to ask Mutasa questions. Those who want to add or to contribute to what he was sharing with us this morning, this is your time. I'm going to start with maybe a question as others are preparing. So many Zimbabweans, Mutasa, remain heavily dependent on a single founder's network reputation. What is the most effective first step to transfer those intangible assets to the institution itself?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Yes. So I was saying that many Zimbabweans remain heavily dependent on a single founder's network. Mutasa has started a business and his reputation, without him, deals will not come. What is the most effective step to transfer those intangible assets, your reputation, to the institution itself? Yeah. For people to start trusting Masawara more maybe than they trust your reputation. Sure, yes.
Sure. I think it goes back. You have to build governance structures around you. And it doesn't have to be a 10-member board. But it has to be people, and they don't always have to be family or friends. It's bringing people that you admire, whose knowledge of what you're doing may be better than you, and you begin to bring them into an institution. You know, whether it's a formal board or it's one that is not registered, governance is a thing that transfers the name. So I work very hard to try and minimize Mutasa from Masawara or Masawara from Zimnat, because I want them to be independent. Where I can add, I'll add, but I do not want them to be dependent on me. So it's a journey, but governance is the core infrastructure that you have to build.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you have got, you are in different sectors. You are into insurance, Minerva, we've got Zimnat, we've got the hotels. When you're building such institutions, are the principles universal or they are different principles for different sectors?
No, the principles are the same. If I look at Cresta, what we look for are great hotel leaders. But they are then structured under a governance structure where people sit on the board and they responsibilities delegated to them. So I don't sit on Cresta as a board. That's the beginning for me of sustainability. Means if I'm there, I'm not there, Cresta is still going to perpetuate. So the structures are common. Good governance, great people, and giving them the latitude to deliver.
Thank you. Let me open it up. Questions? Any questions from the? Yes, there is a mic. Yes, there's a mic. Mr. Mtamalengo has got a question. Thank you.
Hi, mine is not so much a question, but a request, because I think this is the opportunity we have to talk to you. Can you tell us about your story before TA?
Sure.
Because I think that one is, we all know what has happened since
Yeah.
TA, but how did you get to that point?
Sure, I appreciate that. So I started in import-export, and I had a very small allocation at the time. Zimbabwe at the time used to have import licenses, and I had a small allocation to import paper. So that's how it began. I then migrated to broader trading. I remember my first major transaction was to supply rice to what was then the GMB. And that began my journey for large trading opportunities. It was over the next 10 years where I think I did well within the trading environment. But I became very clear that I wanted to achieve more than just money, which is what trading tends to give you. It gives you cash. I wanted to create something that was sustainable. And through the resources that I had gained from trading, I decided that I had no capacity at myself to build an institution. So I went and looked for an institution that I could buy. And that's how I evolved into TA. So the first 15, 16 years of my journey was trading.
Interesting there. Any more questions from the audience?
I wanted to ask this question. In Zimbabwe, quite a number of businesses are thriving, but many are faltering. But if I were in my sleep, if someone were to ask me, give me one successful businessman in this country, or give me 5, or whatever, your name would definitely feature. You seem to have done very well, and you seem grounded, steady, and your business is quite sustainable. What is the trick? Because everyone is crying and mourning around us, and I'm sure you get to interact with such people. Things like that.
Sure.
So what has been your trick? I know you gave us some anecdotes, but what has given you the staying power that you have? Thank you.
You know, my father always said, you know, the reason why men wear jackets is they don't want you to see the state of their shirt at the back. So sometimes what you see is not necessarily what the reality is. And it is something that is very, very important. We tend to compare ourselves with somebody. But we actually don't know what that somebody is going through. And then we think we are failing because they look like they are succeeding. And I have learned over time not to measure myself on what others are doing and focus on what my organizations are doing. Now, I can be honest, sometimes they're not doing well. I was speaking to the general manager of the Oasis just now, and he says, Samtasa, the first 4 months were brutally bad. But we've put structures in to make May better, June better, and I think we'll be okay. Today, if I go to the general manager of Mutapa, he's going to have a different story. He's going to say things are incredibly well because now they have all of the government's business. My belief is don't focus on others, because if you do, you depress yourself, because others will always look better than what you are doing. So my philosophy is, let me focus on my lane. There are people who clearly are doing way better than I'm doing, but it's okay. In my journey, I'm clear about where I'm going. And probably, Victoria, that's the other thing. I'm strongly driven by vision. Strongly. And having a strong vision is what pulls you through some very challenging times. The other time I was talking about the journey of the Joiner City, where we ran out of money 4 times, completely ran out of money in the context of building that building. But the vision was so strong that we never thought we would not finish building it. And we did finish building it. So vision is very important for anybody, and in particular, traders, in particular, small-scale operators. They have to build a vision that is bigger than where they are. And they have to begin to believe in that vision. And I think, Victoria, those are the critical components. Don't spend too much time saying, oh, because so-and-so looks, they're driving a serious car, and therefore it looks like they're doing better than me. No, focus on you and wish them luck. Yeah. And secondly, vision. If you don't have a vision, you're going to battle. Because when the tough times happen, you will not have that backbone that will push you through. The vision is what is going to push you through. And it has to be something you believe. Yeah.
Thank you, Samtasa. So, okay, there's a question here before I ask my last question.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mutasa. Can I just stand up?
Please.
Thank you. The first is a comment, then I've got 3 questions.
Okay.
Will I be allowed to ask them in the same sequence? Okay, thank you. The comment, thank you so much for the Maboy lecture. Just last week, we were having a seminar at Celebration Center. We delayed to start by just about 10 minutes. I went to the podium and said, Maboy knows at non-here. So thank you for that. I think that was the last time I will ever use that word in my life.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Right, then the first question. I'm very nostalgic when it comes to this. I'm coming from the Zimbabwe Capital Markets Academy. Yeah, we're a new institution that seeks to spread the gospel markets about investing on the stock market, capital, financial literacy, etc. When I was in my first year, 2001 at the UZ, the first share that I bought was Zimbabwe. Then in other smaller stocks, I think my power knows some we would always talk about these things. So when Masawara was listed on the AIM, we thought that probably we could get Masawara onto the ZSE. That never materialized for reasons that are best known to you. But my question is, now that we've got this VFX, are you considering going on to the VFX?
Okay.
Number 1. Number 2, there's coming from that space, we've got our markets are very shallow. We are looking or anticipating a deepened financial markets, because, and we need more listings. REITs are the in thing today. giving the property portfolio that are under your holdings, are you considering giving us a REIT? Even private placement, I'll be one of the first people to come on board. Number 3, we have got the SMEs guys here. Do you encourage SMEs? We now have that new SME that was launched in Bulawayo for small enterprises. Would you encourage SMEs to list on that stock exchange?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Maketo.
The first one about listing. Listing, I'm now clear. You do it for particular reasons. And if those reasons are not clear, you shouldn't list. One is to raise capital. It's an efficient way to raise capital. 2, it is to be able to track value. And 3, it is to be able to release wealth as and when you want to. And those, for me, are the 3 critical reasons why one lists. We listed in London because we wanted to raise capital, and we were very successful in that listing. But we realized when we listed there that although we raised capital, it was not a very tradable platform, and we eventually decided to exit. The question of whether we're going to list on VFX or ZSC is really dependent on the business. You might find in a few years' time the board of Zimnat will come to us as a major shareholder, say, we need more capital, and we think the best way to access that capital is to list. We would then look at it and say, that's a great idea, go ahead. At Masawara, we're going through some major restructuring of the organization, and I don't think we are going to list in the next 5 years. But is it the space where eventually we will be? I'm sure we will list. Whether we list partially on ZFX or in another jurisdiction is going to be something we'll do at the time. On the issue of REIT, we've looked at REITs, and we think that, again, it has to be driven by a business rationale. Are we doing it to exit assets or to look for capital? Do we have a compelling story for the market? And these are the issues that would drive whether we go into a REIT or not. But thank you for the question. I think for me, anywhere where SMEs can get cheaper capital is a great idea. But I think it will make even more sense when you do what I said at the beginning, quickly build good governance structures, because then it becomes easy to list on an SME. But if the SME platform that is being created is robust, I would say to anyone who is looking for capital, listed capital tends to be the cheapest form of capital, and therefore it's attractive.
Hello. I particularly really love the idea that you brought up about us as Zimbabweans or Africans in general to look back into the past before colonization, because we had our own institutions and they did work for centuries. If you look at the likes of Great Zimbabwe, those were great minds that built those places.
Absolutely.
Right now we are facing a situation whereby we don't have a sense of self-belief as a people. And that I strongly agree with that point. I wanted to ask, how can we today be able to build self-belief in young people who grew up being told that they're not enough? That's my first question. And also, I wanted to know what personal experience made you realize the importance of self-belief?
Thank you. Wow. You know, first of all, our future is probably your children. And we must start saying to ourselves, how do we re-educate and rewire the minds of our children? Because it's a journey. It's not, you know, this issue of colonization is a 140-year journey. Every day being told you're not good enough. You know, your culture is not good enough. Your names are not good enough. It's been deliberate and continuous. So to re-change it is not a change of agreement. It is a deliberate process that we have to embark on and do it deliberately. And there are small wins that I think are important. One, when we talk about names, we, and in particular in Zimbabwe, we like to put the cloak of another race over us. So we have English names. Those are English people. And we actually prefer them to our own. Now, 90% of the time we carry them because we actually do not understand why. And it's become habitual. We begin to believe, good, yeah, what's wrong? But when you realize that every other race is proud of their names. Every other race, Chinese, English, Indians, fortunately, West Africans on the whole are comfortable because the level of indoctrination they suffered was different from what we suffered. But we have to wake up and start changing that trajectory and that identity. A name is important because it's the first line of identity. Your name immediately says something. You know, when you have a blind and no one can see what's on the other side, and somebody says, if you don't mind me using the word Victoria, and they can't see you, they will assume you're English. They will assume you're English. If you say Donderai, and they can't see you, they will assume you are Shona. And it's so, and it goes on and it goes on. We have to become proud of our identity. And that is the first line of identity. How do we do that? We have to talk about it. We have to make people appreciate. Because I'm actually realizing that a lot of people think, it's just a name. My boy, it's just a name. Do you understand? So this damage has happened over time and it's been systematic. It is not an accident. It really is not an accident. Second question.
My second question was, what personal experience made you realize the importance of self-belief?
Understood. You know, I'm very blessed. I'm blessed because I come from a very deep, in terms of history, family. So for us, from the day you were born, the inculcation of self was there. And I actually began to realize that we were different from quite a lot of other families. Because a lot of other families actually were comfortable with the lack of identity. So for me, it has been something that has been from the beginning. But it has become clear as time has gone on that it is an incredibly important part of success of any nation, identity. Thank you.
All right, sorry. So look, so you do strongly believe in that we should look into the past for the answers for today.
I think if you have the ability to build self-belief from today going forward, that's wonderful. But I think it's a hard one. The reason we go back is because when we go back, there are so many significant victories that we had as a people, and that should strengthen us going forward.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. My name is Tanaka Mshangu from the Harare Institute of Technology. As aspiring entrepreneurs, we tend to have a problem in differentiating self-belief and being delusional. As students, sometimes we sit together, we discuss ideas that we think would be novel or that we think would be unique to ourselves or to our country as a nation. But then when we discuss them, when we start thinking about the finances, start thinking about the licensing and all the other things that you have to encounter to make that decision reality, you think I'm being delusional. What do you think would be the benchmark or the deciding factor that differentiates a good idea, a good business, and a delusion?
Wow.
Good morning. My name is Salem Kwashawan, a part 2 student at HIT Harare Institute of Technology. I wanted to ask concerning building the institutes about how can we use artificial intelligence for us as students to come up with something that is that can be easily sustainable, especially in our era, in our age. Yeah.
Thank you. You know, delusion is a very strong word. When you have an idea, already for me, that is a positive state. It's not a delusional state, it's a positive state. Whether you can migrate the idea to a product is the journey you should focus on. When it comes to capital, I actually think it is easier for Munu to raise capital today than when I started, when I was your age. I genuinely feel that the avenues for capital raising today are well within our grasp than they were 20, 30 years ago. So the issue around migrating from an idea to a product is more the critical conversation you should have. I don't think a man or woman of your intellect should focus on delusionality. It's not necessary. It doesn't mean that your idea is always going to be the right one. And that's the thing about business. You know, you have an idea, you try it out, you move forward, it succeeds, it doesn't succeed. My son said one thing to me which I really love. He says, failure is when you stop. As long as you're moving, you're not failing, you're learning from the mistakes or from the mishaps that you go through. So I would say remove the word delusion if you can from your dictionary. AI, and again, this is where the paradigm has shifted. You know, when I did my speech this morning, and I was ready, I sent it to my daughter 23-year-old. And she asked me a question, Baba, how much time do you have before you make the speech? So I said, half an hour. She goes, okay, give me a minute. She put my speech into Claude. And Claude gave my speech a different spin. And she sent it to me. And it was clear that this speech that she sent was so far superior to what I was going to give you. But I'm an old man, so I don't want to go into new space when I'm already settled. But but that is the indication of how far AI is going to change the way we interact, the way we do things. And the more we embrace AI, the stronger we will become. I would love for us to build enough capacity to build AI algorithms that are African-based, not Chinese, not Western, but African. Because when we start doing that, we will start getting more and more control of our future. So I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you, Samtasa. The last question, you know, when we came up with this concept, we thought it was a good thing that we need to move away from an economy that is individually driven to an economy that is institutionally driven. We thought it was a good thing. I don't know whether everybody agrees, but that's what we thought. What is the risk, if you agree, what is the biggest risk to the Zimbabwean economy if we remain individually driven businesses and not institutionally driven businesses?
Okay. I think for me, first of all, there's no economy anywhere that succeeds without the SME. No economy. The SME is the engine that creates new champions. And we have to be able to nurture those organizations. But we must make it possible for them to migrate from SME to institutional, because it's there that you begin to build real capacity to deliver the aggressive growth. So I think the two work together. We can't be significant if we don't create institutions, especially sustainably. And we can't become a sustainable country if we do not have a continual flow of young minds who are going to help us build the next generation.
Thank you. A round of applause for Samtasa. Thank you so much. We are going to have a tea break, but before our tea break, we've got our sponsors. We have made this day possible. Our diamond sponsor, who is the biggest sponsor today, is Old Mutual. We thank them, and they've got quite a number of products. They brought 3 brands. They brought 3 brands today. You will see them outside. Please go and interact. Go and open an Omari account and other brands that they've brought in this morning. The officials are out there as you are having your coffee, your snacks. Please interact with our sponsors. We also have Minerva, which is one of the units that is under the Masawara group as well. They are outside there. There's someone who was supposed to come from Minerva to just, yes, he is here. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes to tell us some of the products that they have at Minerva.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so standing here, I'm standing on behalf of Minerva. My name is Kudzai Moshanti. So under Minerva, we have 4 main branches. We have the healthcare business, we have the Minerva Risk Solutions, and we have Minerva Benefits Consulting, and we have Minerva Re. So I'll just give just a basic roundup so that when you come to our table, you get to understand exactly what it is that we're doing. So personally, I'm a client relations advisor under Minerva Healthcare. So Minerva Healthcare, we offer individual-based medical aid solutions. And before we go anywhere, I just wanted to put it out there that as a broker, everything that we do is for you as our client. It's free of charge to you. Because everything that we then get, all of our proceeds, they are already calculated into the premiums that you'll be paying. However, we are an added layer of redundancy to make sure that whenever you have any challenges with your insurer, we are there to make sure that everything flows smoothly. So to all those who have companies or who have families that have companies, you should come through to our desk and we give you solutions for your medical aids and even healthcare needs, because we even branch out further into wellness initiatives, even to the students as well. We can even come through to us if you're having any challenges, or if you know that you have any relatives who are having any challenges, you come through to us. Then Minerva Risk Solutions primarily focuses on short-term insurance. So when you're talking of short-term insurance, that's when we're talking about your vehicle insurance, household insurance. You can even insure your phone to those who have iPhone 17 Pro Maxes. These days, you now know that with thieves in Harare, you're just working with your phone, and the next thing, you need not worry. We have you covered when it comes to that, because you come to realize that the premium that you pay, it's not as much. Insurance, I think the main problem that we have with insurance is that people are undereducated when it comes to insurance, but then you realize that the money that you put in, it's not even as much as you might anticipate. Then Minerva Benefits Consulting, this one works, we are looking into the future. We are all, at some point, we're all growing. I mean, where I am right now is not where I was 5 years ago. I might have a really small body, but the age, that's in me. So, you know, of which when I was still in college back then, I didn't anticipate that I would be standing where I'm standing right now. But here I am. So it's a point for us to start planning our future. And when you are looking into benefits consulting, we are looking into your pension. And pension haisi munhu achimbera chete. Pension ndeye kutoti iwewe unge uchironga ramangwana rako. Mazuano, we're looking at instances where people are having young people are having families earlier on. You can plan for your family's future. A lot of uncertainties are going on, so you can put in a little bit every other month. You're putting in $5. That money will mature as it goes on, and you'll be able to then sustain your future families. Then, lastly, we look at Minerva Reinsurance. Minerva Reinsurance, now we're looking at the broader aspect of insurance, where we are now insuring insurers. So to our insurers who are in here, we can even then come through to us, and then we'll also give you our options as well. We'll just give you a roundup of how exactly we manage this one. So I think over and above, that is everything that we have to offer at Minerva. You can come through to our desk, and then we'll give you further information. Thank you very much.
Minerva, talking about building institutions. This is an example of an institution. Sometimes I didn't even need to tell you about all these things. There are people doing it for him. So that's what we are all about, building those institutions. We also have Zimnat. Zimnat is a bigger group as well. We have got Zimnat Microfinance there with the banner there, but I also know that they've got Zimnat Asset Management and the insurance side as well. So let's interact with our sponsors and exhibitors that are out there, and so that we go and tell others, even if what he was saying here, even if it doesn't apply to you, it applies to someone you know, it applies to your boss. So let's, and then lastly, in terms of our sponsors, may I just call upon Madam Tlolo to come and tell us about what we have at Zimpapers, especially one that is called ZTI, Zimpapers Training Institution, among others that are under a portfolio. I'm giving you just 2 minutes to do that, to tell you all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Director of Ceremonies. We are Zimpapers, the biggest media house in Zimbabwe. We are the publishers of Herald, Chronicle, Sunday Mail, Sunday News, Manika Post, Kwayeza, H Metro, B Metro. All these newspapers, they do have digital platforms. So one can choose to read on print or to read on the websites. And all these publications do have social media platforms. I will just go straight into the diversified revenues. So we launched Zimpapers Training Institute as Zimpapers. This is a college that offers national certificates and national diplomas for Hexico. We offer sales and marketing. We offer mass communication, multimedia production and journalism. So we offer a wide range of courses, but above all, we offer master classes. We have currently 5 master classes that are running, and we have these in photography, video recording and editing, digital marketing, AI literacy, and data analytics. So these master classes are going just for $100 for 5 weeks. Over and above that, we launched Zimpapers Courier. Because we are Zimpapers, we have newspapers that are going all over the country. So yo Mutare, Harare, yo Bulawayo, Chinoi, everywhere else. We are saying we can carry your parcel to those towns. You are riding on already existing infrastructure. We are not going to be saying your parcel didn't go because the newspaper has to go. Because the newspaper has to go to those towns, your parcel will go. Then number 3, we launched Zimpapers Retail. If you come to Herald House, Kona George Selunica in Seminioma Street, downstairs, like ground floor, you will see our retail business. We sell ICTs, your laptops, printers, phones, everything ICT. We also sell stationery. So we sell to companies and we sell to individuals. We can speak on and on about these diversified revenues, including events. This is part of diversified revenues. We can coordinate events on your behalf. You do not have capacity. You are limited in terms of the employees under your company. We can do that as Zimpapers events. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mutlolo, for telling us what we have at Zimpapers. Welcome back as we move ahead with the program. So we're gonna hear, before we call upon the next presenter, one of our colleagues from Zimpapers, subscriptions and circulation, Ms. Mshonga, has 1 or 2 words to share with us. If you can come through, Ms. Mshonga.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Liz Mushonga. I'm from Zimpapers, and I'm here specifically to speak about subscriptions to our newspapers. As Ms. Mhlolo earlier on said, we've got a lot of newspapers. The list that she mentioned, Herald, Chronicle, H Metro, are our dailies. And then we've got weeklies, Sunday Mail, Sunday News, B Metro, Manika Post, and Kwayedza, and then Umtunywa. Kwayedza and Umtunywa, as well as B Metro, are online. You won't get them in hard copy. But I'm here to specifically talk about our digital subscriptions. All our publications that are in print have got the digital side, as mentioned earlier. We've got a product that can be delivered to your email on a day-to-day basis. The thing is, most people are so busy, and I'm assuming everybody in this room is so busy. If we give you something on app, you might forget to check it. But we've got subscriptions that are delivered to your emails. The intention that we have with the emails is that the first email you receive on a day-to-day basis is our email. So you open your email, the first email should be reading Zimpapers News. And then you get that paper. It is a replica of the printed version. So whatever advert is in the printed version, you get to see it. Whatever content is on the printed version, you get to see it. This is different from the online newspaper, or rather the online news. This is specifically what has been curated, something that the editors have gone through and have said this is the correct content for the day. Today, I'm going to give everybody who's in this room an opportunity to experience this digital newspaper. And we kindly request everybody in here to leave their email address so that we give you 2 weeks of the newspapers on a daily basis in your email. The thing is, our digital newspapers are delivered between 12 midnight and 2 a.m. The intention being to be the first thing in your inbox on a day-to-day basis. So hopefully we'll be able to beat any other content or any other email that you receive on a day-to-day basis. But that is our aim. And so far, most of our customers have been saying we've been beating them to it. Once in a while, you may receive your newspaper just before midnight, so it will indicate that it was sent yesterday. But our intention is to have it sent between 12 and 2 a.m. on a day-to-day basis. So if your handwriting is not very legible, kindly rewrite your email address, please, on the forms, on the registration forms. And starting from tomorrow, you'll be getting your newspaper on a day-to-day basis. Okay, that's all I'm here to say. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, I can take them, if I'm allowed.
Okay, I'm sure they will interact with you. You were very clear, Ma'am Shonga, with your presentation. And are we ready? Check issues, done? We are good. Okay, so it's now time to welcome our next speaker, who is Nyasha P. Mapolisa. Like I said, she's an executive coach, she's a strategist, and she's here to share with us, in line with the theme of the day, beyond individuals, from an economy of entrepreneurs to an economy of institutions. A round of applause for Nyasha P. Mapolisa. She's also an author. I'm sure you saw her books out there, so get to interact with her and maybe buy a book. Thank you.
Awesome. Maybe some music, eh? While I organize myself. Maybe some music. Shucks. Okay, I'm gonna have to. So I'm very short, but I'm a powerhouse. I'm short, but I'm a powerhouse. Okay. All right, are we ready? Is it morning? Is it still morning or afternoon? Where are we? Good morning, everybody. Good morning. It was really a privilege for me to be here, standing in my own shoes, in my own identity. My name is Nyasha P. And this is Mboy. And this is Munumtema. When I enter a room, I say my name is Nyasha P. Do you want to know the story about Nyasha P? Well, I was only given 30 minutes, so maybe you can catch me a little bit later. So let's get to the topic at hand. From a nation of individuals to a nation of institutions. So my topic today is actually talking about scaling up. You guys are here today because you understand something the national conversations often miss. Zimbabwe does not have a shortage of entrepreneurs. What we have a shortage of is real entrepreneurs, the ones that build, the ones that can employ. Our streets, our markets, our borders, they are full of extraordinarily resourceful people. But there is a difference between Museamwa, sole trader, and the real entrepreneur, the one who employs. The real entrepreneur an entrepreneur can feed a nation, right? And they can employ. And when they employ, they change generations. I call it transcendent legacy, value that is beyond your own name, surname, village, country, continent. It is value that transcends all that. So what's the question? It really isn't, can Zimbabweans build something? We've answered that. You guys are in a room and you are actually doing that. You're building something. But can we build something that employs thousands, millions, billions, continent level. Let me maybe tell you about my own story, right? So I studied actuarial science at UCT, and if you know, actuaries are very good at modeling, spreadsheets, variables, parameters, assumptions, economic, political, all the variables, all the things that can impact, be it an insurance product, a pension product, an investment return. We're very good at that. And I was also very, very good at that. I thought I understood what fragile looked like. It's a pandemic. It's a catastrophic scenario. As I said, in pension funds, in insurance liabilities, and in financial portfolios. Then I made the great pivot from being an actuarial specialist into the big, bad world of business. Enterprise change. And I soon found that there are far more fragile systems than any financial model I had ever built. I found that the more fragile system is what exists in Zimbabwe today. It is in an economy where everyone, or almost everyone, is forced to be an entrepreneur, a hustler, not by ambition, but by sheer necessity. It is in an economy where the formal employer has become so rare as to almost be like a chapungu, mythical. It is an economy where graduates can see hustle everywhere. But when they try and look for a leader, a ladder, they can't find one. So it is an economy where individual genius under pressure, but that is just survival. What we need is institutional design under vision. That's what employs. So let's talk about the missing middle. So every healthy economy has 3 layers. Let's name them, right? At the base is millions of micro-entrepreneurs and enterprises. That's the vendor, the tailor, the artisan, the informal trader, mainingi varipakona. And as our keynote speaker said, they actually are strategic about where they position themselves. But that's just building an economy of survival. In Zimbabwe, this layer is extraordinary. The energy, the resourcefulness, the ingenuity. But they call themselves Maboy, Vanuatema, when they should be calling themselves Van, the indigenous people. Zimbabwe has the base in extraordinary abundance, brilliant, resilient, and resourceful. Then let's go to the top. At the top, a few large institutions, critical, but too few to absorb a growing, talented workforce. And then in the middle, the companies with 50, 200, or 500, or maybe 1,000 employees. I call these the employers. They are the ones that give graduates their first job, their first salary, their first experience of institutional life. That middle column is almost empty. Not because we lack talent, but maybe the conditions have not been assembled as diligently as they need to be. Not because we lack ambition also, but because the capital, the governance, the systems, and the policy support that allow an entrepreneur to become an employer have not been assembled with enough intention. For example, South Korea, they did this deliberately. Mauritius did it deliberately. What was the result? Absolute transformation. Institutions. So, we have been building to survive, but now I think we must pivot and push through so that we can employ. We can have institutions that can carry our country's name beyond the continents, from Zimbabwe to the world. I guess you can ask, why now? I think we have an open window, and it's got 3 signals, right? I've not seen this level of alignment before in my career. So the first thing is the 24-hour economy. What is that saying? Government is signaling something important through its policy. They are saying scale matters. Formalization matters. And I'm just thinking we're corrected earlier on that we shouldn't call them informal sectors. But I'm talking about truly building the governance, the systems that allow you, as the person who started the business, to sleep at night, to go on holiday for 6 months, a year, sleeping peacefully because you know that everything is under control. So, for the scaling entrepreneur, this is an enabling context. Somebody was asking, how do we actually harness self-belief? We are saying the context and what government is saying with the 24-hour policy is the signaling that they are going to create an enabling environment. And that signal is significant and it matters. Government is signaling that scale matters. Formalization, as in putting the infrastructure in place, matters. The second window. So we are going to host the IATF 2029, right? That's the Intra-African Trade Affair, which is the premier platform for continental commerce and investments. When that event comes to Harare, the eyes of the African continent, African business, African capital will be on Zimbabwe's private sector. They will be asking one question. Where are Zimbabwe's investable institutions? The middle layer. Not brilliant individuals, not the large institutions, because they already have capital and support and governance structures. And if the answer in 2029 is still, we have brilliant individuals, but very few scalable institutions, we would have missed an opportunity of generational scale. We would have missed a window that is open until we get to 2029. The third piece, the third open door, it's the AFCFTA, which is about a continental market. It captures a continental market of 1.3 billion people. That is opening up. But it only opens up for institutions, not individual traders. We need that missing middle to be there in order to participate at this continental scale. So, 1 billion people, but only institutions, not hustlers, can play at the scale. So just to reiterate, the opportunity to scale has never been greater, And seizing it requires a deliberate transition from survivalist entrepreneurs to institution building. I guess by now you're saying, Nyasha, what you are talking about, we've heard it, right? How do we do that? In my book, Pivot or Push Through, I talk about how when a founder is at the pivot or push through moment, how that moment is their hardest decision. It's not at the beginning because you have an idea and you've got a lot of energy. But when you face that pivot or push through moment or the scaling, that's when hustle stops being enough. Every founder arrives at this threshold. And as I said, hustling, you being the strategy, stops being enough. So then the question is, do you pivot, change how you build, or do you push through and commit properly to the architecture required? Many founders actually confuse persistence with progress. Zia. Sometimes Zia is not progress. And staying, keeping your museangwa business is not courageous. Pivoting is not always failure. I mean, our keynote speaker talked about his pivot after 15 years. Pushing through is also not failure. Both of them have to be decisions, but there is a difference, and one needs clarity of whether it's a pivot or push-through moment. And I want to give you 3 disciplines that can create this clarity I'm talking about. Okay. So in my book, I give a framework. I call it care, align, ask. So care, what is that about? It's asking the questions, who are you building for? Are you building for yourself, or you're building so that you can employ? You are building so that you can become a true entrepreneur, one who builds institutions. My grandmother used to say something, rest her soul. She used to say, itai zvinu zvinorarama. Itai zvinu zvinorarama. Build things that live and thrive. Care is not a feeling, it is a deliberate decision. It is the decision to build something that does not need you to survive. To invest in a successor you may never work alongside with. To write down the process, and the documentation, to write down the process that lives in your head so that somebody you have never met or you will never meet can depend on it in 10 years' time, 50 years' time, 60 years' time. The Martin Luther King of business. The second part is align. So if every decision roots through you, you don't have a company. If every decision roots through you, hauna company. Mr. Mutasa says he does not sit on the Cresta Oasis board, right? Is it the board? Yes, he does not sit on it. But look at us. We are in here. The aircon is making me freeze. The water is on the table. The mints, so that, while you guys are listening to me, you can keep your breath fresh. They are on the table. I don't even know if Mr. Mutasa knew that this aircon was going to make Nyasha P freeze. I doubt it because he does not sit on the board. But Kudzai also helped me, right? And he gave me the clicker so that if I'm feeling too cold, I can. Anyway, I digress. Ask. Asking. Now, before we get to ask, let's align. We talked about alignment. I said if every decision routes through you, then you don't have a company. Alignment means 4 transitions. 1, from individual to system, from founder to CEO, relationships to reputation, and from revenue to governance. Governance. Governance of the institution and governance of self. I've just written an article about how one can translate the principles of corporate governance into what I call a personal board of directors. That's what we're talking about. We need governance at individual level and at the institutional level. Alignment tends caring from intention to institution. A lot of roads are what? With good intentions. What's the phrase? That there are many, many places which are marred with good intentions. Just because you intend something, it does not make it an institution. Wishes are horses. Then let's move to ask. A good question reveals what activity hides. Right capital, right governance, right policy. Are you asking for the right capital at the right stage? Are you building for investment readiness? Are you engaging the enabling environment, government, ZNCC, ZIMRA, ZIDA as partners, not as a petitioner? Ask is not a one-time audit. It is a permanent institutional practice. Our keynote speaker, Mr. Mutasa, said, permanence is a word that is not so spoken about. We talk about short-term, long-term. We're talking about permanence. What builds permanent institutions is asking the right questions at the right time. Care is the why, align is the how, and ask is what keeps your caring honest, moving intention into institutions. So let's look at what is on our doorstep, a proof of concept of this care, align, ask framework. And guess what? I was very strategic, ne? So I thought, let's use Mr. Masawara as the proof of concept. Zimbabwe already has this. He was there in Keynote sitting, telling us about his first 15 years, right? But here's how I can apply the care framework. Masawara Holdings was built here by a Zimbabwean, and he also said he's not English. Ne? Ndiwasu. Yeah, I'm also Wasu, so I don't know. Through Zimbabwe's most difficult economic decades, Masawara has got Zimnat, it has Cresta Hotels, it has Joiner City, it has Sabo Chemicals, and I know you presented a new entity, right? It is functioning in 5 sectors, 5 institutional builds, each requiring its own governance structure. He said it himself. He does not sit at the Cresta board. It has its own leadership pipeline. The brilliant young man who also spoke about the new organization, sorry, I forgot the name. He is demonstrating what the leadership pipeline at Masawara Holdings looks like. It has its own capital architecture, and it has its own regulatory navigation. So this is not a story of just Mr. So-and-so, Mr. Museamwa, who is a brilliant founder. It is a story of a person who told us that he was deliberate about creating institutional architecture. Now let me map the 3 disciplines I spoke about. In terms of caring, built for Zimbabwe's economy, not a personal exit. Long horizon commitment actually said permanence. He said the word that should be in the dictionary is permanence, right? Institutional permanence that weathers crises and transitions. Align, multi-entity governance, leadership pipelines, financial reporting architecture, board structures, governance, as Mr. Mutasa said, something that he's realizing, or something that he said he realized when he was starting off from his father's bedroom. The founder's knowledge has to be embedded into a system so that we can create employers of thousands, millions, billions. Ask. Growth capital, not survival credit. Readiness was built, not assumed. They asked for and they prepared to receive institutional investment. So Zimbabwe has the talent and the vision. The question is, do we have the architecture? So let me have an appeal or a challenge or a question to 3 groups in this room. To the entrepreneurs and the SME founders, I want you to do this. Write 1 sentence this week that is about your change in identity. What employer are you becoming? This is about identity. Not for your business, not for the company, the institution that will give someone their first job, their first salary, their first experience of building something with other people. Map the 5 decisions that only you can make. Then begin dismantling each one. Name the person you're developing to lead this when you step out of this venue today. To the financiers, banks, FDIs, pension funds, venture capital, stop funding survival alone. Design one instrument for the missing middle. Review one instrument in your portfolio. Ask honestly, does this capital help a company scale, or it's merely for it to continue to survive? Identify one entrepreneur who has done the alignment work and give them growth capital and have the conversation because they have already earned it. And then to government, regulators, ZNCC, and development partners, make formalization attractive. Do not tax institutional ambition. Find one policy, one regulatory process, one compliance requirement that currently makes formalization or institutionalization harder than just continuing to become a sole trader. Open one conversation with one scaling entrepreneur this month, not to be low bid, but to understand what they are building and what they need to build faster. The missing middle will not fill itself. It will be built by the people who are in this room. The most generous thing any of us can do, be it entrepreneur, financier, or policymaker, is to build something that will still be employing people when we are gone, and our children are gone, and our great-grandchildren are gone. That's transcendent legacy. So let me close. All right. This is what my grandmother said. Itai zvinhu zvinorarama. Build things that live, that thrive for the future. Build things that have a heartbeat, that have ongoing momentum. When she said that, she was not talking about buildings. She was not talking about companies. She was talking about institutions, about the things that outlast the person who built them, that employ people after the founder has since stepped back. How do you do it? Care, align, ask. These are not presentation slides. They are a practice, a series of daily decisions and conversations about systems, about successes, about the questions we are willing to ask. Or maybe we're not willing to ask them, but we know we must ask them nonetheless. The institutions we build today are the employers of our children, grandchildren, and the whole transcendent legacy. Zimbabwe does not need more brilliant individuals. Zimbabwe has brilliance in extraordinary abundance. What it needs, what this conference exists to build, is for every brilliant person in this room to become an architect of something that outlasts them. Be the institution this economy needs. Rename yourself. Don't take on names. Let's be like the Jews who refused the name and it's been erased. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie once said, Nigerians have got a casual arrogance. Yeah, let's maybe borrow from our West African brothers and sisters. Let's have casual arrogance. Let's enter the room and say, my name is Nyasha P. And is boy. And my purpose is to build a transcendent legacy. Martin Luther King of business. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for Nyasha P. She has refused to be called Mboy. And there's no reason to call him Mboy. We'll take a few questions for Nyasha. If you can stay with me here, okay. So that we can take the questions whilst you're here. Any questions for Nyasha? Any points where you need clarity, or all was good? Yes, there's a question. Yes, you can go ahead, sir. Yes.
Thank you so much. My name is Charles Quinjo.
Hi, Charles.
Hi, Nyasha.
P.
Nyasha P. Me in industry, they call me Mr. Excellent because my answer is I'm always excellent. And because of that, excellence follows me anywhere I go.
Awesome.
That's right. It's what's your comment? It's my own observation has been perhaps as we do this sort of foundational base that I see could be our education system. Our education seems to produce employees. I've been invited, I'm a member of IPMZ, I sometimes go with IPMZ to talk to graduates at universities when they're just about to get into the world, as you call it. And one of the key things they just say is, Charles, show us where we can get jobs. But the critical thing is our lecturers seems to focus on creating employees. I wish our education system could start this whole basis, even in the syllabus where we teach, whether it is from primary, whether it is from secondary, where we teach kids, it's how to be an employer as part of the syllabus. So that when you are graduating from college, not everybody, I don't want to know CV. I was quite impressed. I saw it one culinary school that was on TV about 2 weeks ago, where the students were saying, the moment we leave, we have identified ourselves, the 5 of us are going to team up, we actually form a cafe. We start, therefore, that is the sort of a mentality I believe perhaps could be lacking. That foundational base, I don't know what your comment is. Thank you so much, Nat.
Well, thank you very much. And I always say, when you're pointing a finger, because you're pointing a finger asking me a question, there is 4 pointing right back at you. You are the person who is being plagued by this issue. You are the person who understands clearly what we need to do. So it looks like you and I, we can talk outside on how we are going to be the change that we want to see. But on a more serious note, thing is, we start where we are. So we have a lot of people who need employment. So let's start by building the middle, right? If there is capacity, resources to build, on all three pillars, then let's do that. I think changing education systems, curriculums, that's a very long-term, and it requires a lot of rigorous discussions and a lot of stakeholders. But I think we can start somewhere.
Thank you, Nyasha. One more question? One more question for Nyasha? Thank you. I think they are happy.
Awesome.
Yes, another round of applause for Nyasha P.
Thank you very much.
So, if I may add on the issue of education, I think traditionally we were more theory-based, but I think there's with the Education 5.0, there is some kind of transition that is now taking place. I love the Harare Institute of Technology. They've done quite a lot in terms of, I think a student from Harare Institute of Technology, they can easily be an employer given the number of things that they are creating. I was just reading yesterday in the paper that they've now done a lithium battery, not for the cars, but it's a lithium battery all the same for other purposes, not yet for the vehicles, but I think they've done it well. I think they are also shipping, maybe it's already arrived, they are shipping equipment to manufacture solar panels here in Zimbabwe. The last time I spoke to the VC, he was saying that they did a test of most of the solar panels that are in Zimbabwe, and most of them, they are not as powerful as they are said to be. And at Harare Institute of Technology, they've actually shipped some equipment from China to produce solar panels. So if we can have that kind of education, then we are in the right path. We are not yet there, like Nyasha said, that it will take time, but I think we are making strides towards that. Now is the time to get more voices into the conversation with my panelists that will unpack more of what we are gathered here today, from an economy of entrepreneurs to an economy of institutions. That's what we are here to do. And let me call upon Mr. Farai Mutambanengwe, who represents the voice of SMEs with the Small and Medium Enterprise SMEs Association of Zimbabwe, rather. He's here. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes to the stage. He is today, I'm sure he will be the voice of SMEs. I know he has got other capabilities in terms of analyzing the economy and stuff, but he is also going to share in terms of SMEs. What is it that is lacking, or what is it that they are not being given for that transition into institutions? That's if they are not, because SMEs, some of them are actually institutions, as even though as they are small. We also have Mr. Bothwell Nyajeka, who brings decades of executive experience. If I'm not mistaken, Bothwell used to work for one of the TA, Sebos, was it Sebos? Yes, Sebos, which is also part of the Masawara group. And then we also have Batanaim Konzo from CBZ, who is the head of SME banking at CBZ Holdings. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes through. And we also have, once again, Nyasha P, who is an executive coach. We have heard from her, but she's again going to be one of our panelists. And last but not least, we have got Thabo. Thabo is coming from Crowe and also bringing a wealth of experience in that space. I will hear more from him. A round of applause for Thabo as he comes to the stage as well. So if we can have mics for my panelists. I'll be standing as we can maybe move the podium. All right. So let's get straight into it without wasting much of our time. I'll start with you, Farai. You work with SMEs every day. Many of them are brilliant, as we heard from both Shingai and Nyasha, that we've got so many brilliant Zimbabweans. They are hardworking, and that's true about most Zimbabweans, and successful enough to keep it going. But they stay small, most of them. They stay dependent on the founder. What is the single biggest reason an entrepreneurially run business fails to become an institution?
All right, thank you. Well, the single biggest reason, I think, is exactly what the guest of honor spoke about, which is the vision, or we call it growth mindset, or having a growth strategy. In other words, the mindset with which a business is established tends to persist. So you'll find that a lot of businesses, they are set up not with a big vision, but they are set up either for survival, especially nowadays, because I just need to earn something, or they are set up because someone just feels maybe, it's a lifestyle thing. I want to run my own business, but they don't have the mindset of actually growing it or becoming, whether it's a national or a regional or a continental or international business. So that is pretty much the biggest thing, the mindset with which the business is established or it's run.
So from what you're saying, Farai, it shows me that probably the individual becomes the ceiling. Let me come to you, Bothwell. You have led large institutional organizations, and from your seat, when you look at the business or the person that Farai was describing, what does an institutionally run company have that an entrepreneurially run company lacks beyond just size and revenue?
Oh, okay. Now, thanks, Kudzi. I think over the past years I've been in corporate. Interestingly, I was reflecting on it. I've actually worked for family-owned businesses. I started my working life with Anglo-American, owned by the Oppenheimers, set up in 1917. And then I went on to work for TA, which became Masawara. TA Holdings was formed in 1934. So when you look at the thread on those two businesses, the main thing I think is what has been talked about is that as an entrepreneur, you build something that works for you because you are the passion, you are the driver of the business. But when you move to an institution, you are building something that outlives yourself. That's why the Anglo-Americans are still here, despite the fact that they were formed in 1917. That's why the TA Masawaras are still here, because they were formed in 1934. But when you look at, say, what makes them transcend these years, I think these are the issues that have been talked about. It's the systems, corporate governance, and also the belief. But one of the key things that I found in all these institutions as well is, number one, you are selling a product and a service. That product and service must be of good quality. People must always be wanting to consume it. And also, number two, you must always be reinventing yourself. Because if you look at TA Holdings, when it started, it was a tobacco company. Now we're talking of Masawara. The same institution is now in insurance, hospitality, chemicals. So the institution itself must be able to reinvent itself. When you look at Anglo-American, instead of gold mining, diamonds, now they're into a lot more industries and span across the world. And lastly, one of the things that I found out is, at the end of the day, when you look at it, it's the people. The entrepreneur, you'll have a vision, but the person who interprets that vision to reality and to making money is the people. You start off as a one-man band, you are yourself doing it. But thereafter, for you to build a lasting institution, you must look for good people. I'll end there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nyajeka, and re-emphasizing the fact that you must look for good people to run the business. I think it resonates to what Mr. Mutasa was saying earlier on. Let me come to you, Batanai. Both and Farai. especially Botho, says that institutions have discipline, separation of roles, the people that he was talking about, the governance that Shingai was also talking about, and you lead the you lend to SMEs. When you hear Farai and Botho, how does that gap show up in the applications that cross your desk, and what distinguishes a business ready for institutional banking from one still too informal? I know that some TASA said, the informal, but there is a distinction that you then look at to say, okay, this business is ready for lending as an institution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think there is an issue around philosophical shift where whilst entrepreneurs, they do exploit opportunities, we have a tendency where the idea and the business centers around an individual. So the whole idea is, as long as we realize that this business, its success is only possible because there's a certain individual that is key and driving it, it merely means this is a job. It's not a business until it graduates into an institution. So we need to have that shift, mindset shift, to say, yes, I've got the vision, I've got the idea, but this is a going concern. So in my absence, is this business going to continue? So that's one differentiating factor. And there's an issue around predictability and sustainability. That's so key as far as trying to differentiate between an individually run entrepreneurial business and also an institution. So it's very key that as entrepreneurs, we move away from a people or a person to a process. Let's put in a process in place where, whether you are there or not, we're going to have systems in place that will make sure that the business is functioning. I think the two speakers, Samtasa and Nyasha, they spoke to an issue around documentation. That is very key. I think majority of our entrepreneurs, they focus more on handshake deals, right? Where there's no evidence that is put in place. So you then are approaching the bank and say, I think I need to get some financing, but you've got just a story to tell. There's no evidence. So documentation then, it's also another key differentiator in terms of someone who is just an entrepreneur and someone who is running an institution. Again, market strategy is key. Value proposition. What is it that you are offering the market? Have you come up with your clear customer value proposition to say, this is who I am, this is the business that I am? So most entrepreneurs, I think Nyasha spoke about hustling. You wake up every day, you're focusing on everything and all that is available for you. There's no clear value proposition for the business that you are running. So we then need also to transition from that thinking of hustling and say, this is what I have to offer to the market. Governance, I think the speakers before us, they really spoke about it. Governance is very key. Let's put up a system that makes sure you are accountable. You have people that you can consult with, that can give you ideas, that can help you realize that this is not just my business that I'm running. So as long as there is no governance in place, we're bound to have a problem as it comes to trying to get support even from the businesses. That advisory body, it's very critical. we can't continue to run business and expect us to succeed without having a board that you are accountable to. So basically, we then are saying, as the bank, we then also have put up a clear MSME CVP. How do we start? There's a very big gap. I think there was my brother who spoke about our education system, which has created a gap. Financial literacy, it's a very big gap that we have in our businesses. So intentionally, we then have put in place our CVP that starts from that level, where we want to be able to gather people around like this and be able to give financial literacy. How do you scale up? How do you make sure you are able to do record keeping? How are you able to transition from an individually dependent business to an institution? I think those are some of the key differentiating factors.
Let me stay a little bit with you, Batanai, but in brief. Does the risk profile change if I'm approaching the bank as an individually run business versus when I'm approaching a bank, maybe even as an SME, but I'm now an institution? Does the risk profile differ?
Certainly. Certainly. Remember, we are saying if you're the individual who is running the business, your risk is very high.
And with high risk, high interest rates.
Obviously, this is the reason why you have seen most MSMEs, they find it easy to go to, if you allow me to use the term loan shark, they find it easy because there is no scrutiny that happens. They don't get deeper to do due diligence. They don't even ask to say, why do you need the money? All they are interested in is, what is my return in this business? Whether the business is going to scale up, whether the business is going to grow, they don't care. So you find, because of lack of a lot of these institutional characteristics, you're bound to make decisions out of desperation. Does it make sense to borrow at 20% when your margin probably is just 5%? A lot of entrepreneurs, they don't look at that. But because they've got an order to deliver, to satisfy, they would rather take that money because they're not being asked a lot of these, including compliance and regulatory requirements. So they would say this is convenient, efficient, but at what cost? So obviously the pricing then comes with the risk of saying it's very high to an individual than it is to an institution.
Thank you, Badanai. I know, Farai, when you feel the need to to push back, I know it's your constituency. If there is need to push back, just let me know. Let me come to you, Nyasha. You wrote a book. It's called Pivot or Push Through. Just in line with this conversation, when a founder realizes that they are the bottleneck, how do they know whether to pivot or change their role or business model, or push through the pain of letting go?
Yeah, I think that's a pertinent question, right? We did say, I actually want to say something. So an individual who is a brand is actually a very good thing. If you think about Richard Branson, right? He is a brand and is probably worth more than the companies that he has under his leadership. So I'm not saying that you should focus only on building the institution. Actually, I'm saying first invest in yourself so that you can become a whole brand, right? A brand, a Nyasha P brand. How do you know whether you should pivot or push through? The simplistic answer is the body speaks, right? If the questions or the feelings and the emotions that you're having are top, they're in your head. You're asking questions, what do I need to do? You know, who do I need to speak to? That's a push-through moment. And in a push-through moment, you need a personal board of directors. One of the things that I've seen with entrepreneurs, they would rather invest in anything else except for themselves. When you want to scale up your business, you have to change your mindset. And people like coaches or advisors, they become quite important. And I understand that there is a dichotomy, right? You need to invest in the business, but you also need money in order for you to change your mindset. But I'm saying if you do not have the mindset, the stamina, the resilience as an individual to be able to sit with a banker, convince them of your vision, convince them of how your value proposition is, then you're not going to win. Pivot moments, they're in the gut when you are uncomfortable and you know that something isn't right. So yeah, simplistically, if it is in your head, that's a push-through moment. If it is below the belt, that's probably you need to pivot. But in either of the scenarios, you need a personal board of directors.
Thank you, Nyasha. Let me come to you, Thabo. Many entrepreneurs avoid formal financial health checks because they fear, in my view, what they may find. Just come in and ndipo yakati ichingoiswa muhomwe, mambotengesa here, can you give me $100 and stuff like that. What is the difference between a founder's gut feel about their business, thinking I'm making money, and a proper institutional health check? Walk us through what a business health check actually looks like and what it means.
All right, thank you so much there, Kudzi. I think you asked about 4 questions in one. So I'll just say what a gut feel is. So a gut feel is instinctive and reactive. You're just feeling it, right? But then a health check is more structured and evidence-based. So what I mean is, when you go to an entrepreneur, then ask them about how their business is going, right? They would probably say something like this: no, sales are growing, we have big orders, things feel okay, right? But now when you move on to an institutional health check now, the uncomfortable questions now, or the uncomfortable findings then are then to say, are you actually making money per transaction? What I mean by this is, yes, sales are growing, orders are coming in, but have you costed your product to actually see that you are making a good margin on every sale, right? So you find that more times than a lot, you find that a person doesn't actually know how to cost their product. They only know ndakaorder nemari yakati, ndiri kutengesa nemari yakati. But you find when you get these big orders, they will then ask for discounts. So because you need the money, you just take the order anyway. But if you looked at how it affects your margins, and are you still making money from that order? So the other things are that is your cash flow sustainable? Where the leakages, can this business survive a shock? Those are some of the things that come through from a health check. So basically, a health check covers 4 or 5 areas, which is your financial health. So there's your cash flow and working capital. So basically, profitability is one thing, but cash flow is another thing, right? And businesses survive on cash flow and not profitability. So you have to know the difference between the two, right? Then obviously we look at the operational efficiency side. Are your processes written down? Are they defined? Are they working? Are they scalable as well? Then you also look at the governance and controls, and the banker has said, governance is a major thing. And basically they're looking there at your structure and accountability lines. Are your reporting lines well defined, etc., right? Then the fourth one we look at on a business health check is the strategic positioning of the business itself. What are the risks of the business? How are you mitigating those risks? I'll just give an example. Let's say you approach Mr. Banker there, and you have a business on maybe you're doing aluminium irrigation pipes, just as an example, right? And you are saying you are making money from that. So what would then happen is when the banker looks at it now, they know that you now have GRV pipes coming through, you now have even plastic pipes coming through, etc. But from your point of view, you are saying, no, I'm making money from this. But he's seeing that you no longer have a market and things are changing. But the fact that you are not actually seeing it, it means it's a red flag. So that strategic positioning now is also critical in terms of sustainability of a business. So it's I think why it matters. He mentioned that, you know, if things are in order, you get lower interest rates, you know, rather than getting the 20% per month, etc. But what it also does, the record keeping and everything helps also you understand your business better. Because what you have seen is some businesses have actually failed, not because there are no opportunities, but because they didn't understand their own numbers and risks.
Interesting, especially when you know that there's one big retail company that is struggling, and yeah, maybe they didn't understand their numbers as well, and cash flow also a big issue there. So you know, you're talking about governance, you're talking about systems, and you're talking about mindset. These are people that we are talking about, and Farai, we are saying that you have started your business as an individual, but now you need those people. Maybe you can talk to us in terms of some of the common mistakes that entrepreneurs make when they try to hire their first professional manager. What goes wrong when they try to institutionalize too quickly or too late?
All right. I think the biggest problem is not having systems. So you need systems, not just for accounting, but you also need systems even for things like recruitment. You need systems in terms of things like job descriptions, contracts, etc. So the biggest mistake that a lot of people make is that they may, most of them, I would say, they avoid hiring managers, but the few that do are doing so within a context where they have not put in place the proper groundwork for that manager to become effective. So you'll find that if you don't have things like performance management systems in place, you don't have, you are not clear about what they are supposed to be doing, you are expecting them to come in and change your business and so on, that often results in failure. So the biggest issue is to actually understand at which point, then also what you were alluding to, it's not, when you are starting a business, you don't need managers. When you are starting, you first need the business to actually start to generate cash flow. But once it's grown, once you can see that the business model, the core business model is working, you've scaled it up, you start to employ people to then take over some of those roles that you would have been doing as the founder. So it's important to also start hiring at the right stage, because what tends to happen, especially for people who come out of the corporate sector or someone who was formerly employed, you tend to want to replicate the same structures that you saw where you were working. So you start by putting in place managers, even supervisors sometimes, and so on. But then the business does not yet have the revenue, or it's not yet generating sufficient revenue to be able to sustain that structure. So you don't want to do it too early, because obviously you won't afford it. You also don't want to leave it too late, because sometimes that's also the other issue that happens, where the entrepreneur, because you are so used to your systems, because you understand how everything works, you just feel that I'm the only person who can do this. So you continue to do it when you've actually got to a stage where you should actually be putting other people to be able to do those things. So it's important to know exactly at which stage, but it's very critical to also ensure that you have the requisite systems to succeed with such a structure.
Yeah, I think you have said something that caught my ear there, to say sometimes as entrepreneurs, as we are running the business, we are like, I'm the best person, and I'm the only person who can do this. I don't think I can give it to another person. And also the aspect that you spoke about, sometimes you then try to hire maybe a manager too early when you can't afford it. You're basically adding costs instead of real capacity. Both were, when, for example, I'm sure as you were with TA and other entities, you were involved in some transactions in terms of acquisitions and so on. When a company or a conglomerate considers acquiring or investing in a business that was being run by an individual. What specific institutional disciplines tell you the founder is ready to step back? Maybe if you can, I'm not sure if, yeah, but I'm sure you can give it a shot. What would you look at? Because as we are investing, maybe even in private equity, you want to go and invest in that business, but the founder might be holding on to that company and doesn't want to let it go. So what institutional discipline tells you the founder is now ready to step back?
Yeah, I think when you want to invest in any business, I mean, what drives you is the return that you want to make out of that business.
Let me just add to say, maybe not only an acquisition, I want you to broaden your answer, maybe not only when you are acquiring, but also when you are being employed as a manager by somebody who is the founder, right? And what are some of the things that you then look at and say, okay, I think he's ready to go, or to let go, and the management of the company is truly giving me the reins, because you might be employed by someone and say, okay, come in, but you find that they still want to do everything and bypass you.
Yeah, I think the key question that one asks is can this business perform without the founder? I think that's key, because if the answer is this business cannot perform without the founder, then you know the founder is not prepared to let go, and you tend to get it in discussions with the founder, either before you acquire the business or before you get employed. And like what Farai was saying, that you also want to be given the platform to exercise your mind. You don't want to we have a restricted platform. So I think that's the key question that you would ask. And then the other issues that one would look at, especially when you are now looking at investing in a business, is around the financial disciplines. Are the financials clean? Record keeping, cash flows. I think it's important because when you're investing in a business or you are joining a company, your most important thing is it's all about money. It's all about return. I mean, you can't invest in a business which you don't know whether it's doing well or it's doing badly, or even you can't join a company which you do not know either whether it's doing well or it's doing badly, and that can only be found from the financials. And those financials require financial discipline, record keeping. The other thing as well that one would look at is really the risks. We talk about entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs tend to be very visionary, very passionate, very optimistic, despite whatever risks that you are actually seeing. So one of the things that we want to look at is the business being realistic in its projections. Are they being realistic about their business? I think all these things we are looking beyond the founder, the entrepreneur. Then the other thing, obviously, that we've all talked about, which I will not spend more time, is really around governance. Is there separation of the company from the owner? And that separation comes in that there's a board, decisions are being made transparently, there's documentation and all those things. And then the last thing that one would look at as well is this whole issue that Nyasha spoke about, scalability of the business. Because when you're looking at a business, you may start off just making 100 units, and you've got a business model where you are very good at making those 100 units. The other thing that you now say, can we scale it up? Do we have the systems? Do we have the people? Do we have the governance structures to enable us to scale up? And most companies in Zimbabwe right now, they're also looking at saying, can we go outside the country? So all those things of scalability now start coming out. So when you're now looking at issues of scalability, you're now looking at the product. Can it be repeated elsewhere? Will it remain of the right quality? Can we repeat the systems? Can we predict the business going on there? So those are what I would say are the key ones. But the key one for me will be your financial discipline and your scalability, and then the systems. Thanks.
Thank you there both well. Issue of financial discipline. So let me come to you, Batanai. Many SME founders mix personal and business finance. I think we spoke about it a little bit. What is the minimum financial infrastructure a business must have before you consider them an institution rather than an individual?
So that's one of the biggest diseases that entrepreneurs do have. You know, let me call it the mixing of pockets, right? The moment you realize that there's no separation of your personal finances to the business cash flows, already we've got a challenge. So, as the business owner, rather be on a salary from your business. Rather have clear drawings that we know that these are drawings that are going to the business owner. Not to the extent of stalling the business. So that's one key factor that we need to be able to consider. Another infrastructure is speaking about putting up a system, enterprise resource planning. It's very key. Let's have a system in place that integrates everything. If we are to do an analysis on your business, we're able to see your HR there. We're able to see your stock system. There's an integration that is there. How much revenue are you generating? So it's very key then to put up such ERP systems in place. Internal controls. Those are very key. Majority of us, if we're entrepreneurs, we're the initiators, we are the authorizers of all the transactions. So it's either, even if someone wants to come in, it cannot happen as long as you have not initiated it, and you also are the one to authorize it. So I think it speaks to issue around governance, to say, I've put controls in place. So I'm going to have a system that can trace all the process that we're doing. I spoke about documentation, management accounts. Most people, they then come to the bank and say, I need financing. The moment I'm in the checklist, there's financial statements. You scare them away. They start to think, okay, how do I doctor this for it to be attractive to the bank? But we're saying put in place a regular, simple profit and loss account. That shows you whether you want to borrow or not. You want to know whether the business you are running is making sense. Even if there is no other stakeholder that is interested in your business, yourself, you need to know whether I'm making money or this is a going concern. So putting in place management accounts, it's also very, very important, and it's also a key infrastructure. Digital footprint, it's also very important. We need to have a digital footprint that also helps you create a trail of alternative data. So as a financier, I'm also interested in looking at that trail of your alternative data in your business. The most critical, but I think majority of us, we are afraid of it, fiscal citizenship. Not only for borrowing purposes. Today you go into government tenders, I think among the requirements, they're looking at how compliant are you. You want a business, you want to supply to the government institutions. If you are not a physical citizen, you can't get the job. So essentially you're out of business. So I see a lot of people, then they want to get financing. They are told, can we have your tax clearance certificate? Can we get your NASA? You've got employees that you have that you are not willing to protect, but you want to get borrowing. They are scared away. So we are saying, among everything else, You know, when we then are looking at the business, we're looking at it as the bigger picture of the business. But there are certain key fundamentals, and without being a citizen that is compliant, you find yourself with challenges to get investors, to get financing into your business. So we then are urging entrepreneurs to say these are key components as far as wanting to get financing from banks. Let me indicate to say an institution must outlive its founder. That's very important. I think an example was given for about Strive Masiwa. He himself is a good example as well. You hear Masawara, if you look at it, is a very big institution to date. But in some instances, you may not even get to know that he is the one behind all those institutions. What they've done is to build an institution that will outlive them. But the how part is to ensure that all such infrastructure has been put in place, and it makes the business even attractive. It's very simple. You want to borrow. It's just that infrastructure that you put in place. Then even when you talk about the risk, it lowers the risk. And you are bound to get a lot of investors wanting to put money into your business. And when you get investments coming out of various investors, including the banks, it also means it gives you even a bigger muscle to compete in the market.
Yeah, thank you there, but you know, it's interesting, you spoke about the issue of tax clearance certificates. I think it's something that is really, Zimra is really on it, and you would think that I'm running away from Zimra, but also, as you said, you'll be scaring away the bankers to say, this one doesn't comply with the fiscus, so let's stay away from them, or maybe the risk becomes too high. Nyasha, you are an executive coach, right? How do you coach a business from the business, sorry, I'm mixing my numbers here. How do you coach a founder, rather, from I am the business to the business is an institution that runs without them? How do you coach them to transition from saying I am the business, without me there's no business, to say it's an institution that can survive without me?
Awesome, that's a brilliant question, and I'm also kind of going through that process myself. I'm trying to scale up, and there are ways you can actually scale up a book, and I'm exploring them. So how do I coach an individual so that they can understand what they need to do? The first bit is really working with the person's conviction, or the vision, or the mission, or the value system. If a person is not convicted in themselves that this is something that is useful, something that adds value, something that the market needs, and they are the only person that can do it. So, I mean, there's a song that says, do what only you can do. So I need for that individual to be able to articulate what are they uniquely positioned to do. So let me use myself as an example, right? I studied actuarial science, so it means that I understand cash flows, I understand economics, I understand statistics, and right? But now I'm wanting to write a book and scale it, right? So the question is, what book are you going to write? Because you can write any book. So then I write a book that is steeped in my experience as an actuarial person, the problems I saw, right? And then I use that to create my value proposition. So in essence, what I'm doing is first understand what value you as an individual makes, right? And then create an institution. So almost in AI nowadays, they're talking about digital twins, yeah? So what is a digital twin? It's you literally need to document what you do, and then you digitize it, you put it as a system, as a process. So the first point is, what is your conviction, and what is it that only you can do, because that's your unique value proposition, and that's the thing that can be scaled up.
Thank you, Nyasha. Let me open it up to the floor. If there are any questions for our panelists, you can indicate by raising your hand so that we can, yes.
As entrepreneurs, there's a gentleman who has talked about putting up systems. So how easy is it for us entrepreneurs to put up systems in place? You talked about ERPs, that's HR management, sales, inventory, among others. But normally as we start, we are only talking of probably 3 people as entrepreneurs. So how easy is it to put up these ERPs?
Yes, but I can take that one. And I think, Tabo, you also come in and talk about maybe even standard operating procedures. You can go ahead, Batanai.
Yeah, I assumed it was addressed to me. So, our economy is a cash economy, so to speak, as much as it's also an informal, the term that I think sometimes I said we mustn't be using. But if we rely more on what we think our economy is, which is also evolving, it takes away outsiders whom you want to interact with to know what really your business is worth. So what is critical is to be able to invest in those systems. Today we look at organizations like Econet. It started, I think, with Strive, maybe with his friends or colleagues. It's the same thing. They didn't have systems. But all they realize is we need an accountant. Right now in our businesses, if we are running them as a family or we are 3, to say we need a consultant in the form of an accountant and say we're going to pay them $200 per month, we found it as a very huge cost. But what are the benefits that are going to accrue from that? So you may not have the expertise. I've always, I think when I interact with SMEs or entrepreneurs, to say, can you focus on what you know best? What you don't know, please borrow it from somewhere. Invest in it. Amongst yourselves, if you are 3 or 4, you've got different expertise. Invest in that. So to answer the question, to say how easy it is, it all takes a mindset shift. It all takes realizing that we need to invest in this. Only can you make money out of the business. Otherwise, you remain in that mode where you see value or you see balances in the account and you think, I'm making money. Only until you have systems, then you will know. Just like when we say I've employed 3 people in my business. Half the time, you just sit down and say, how much do you want? Probably the person says, okay, you can give me 100. Or you determine to say, I think if I give them 100, they will like their job. But is it making sense to the business? Is it also making sense to the individual for them to be motivated to want to do more? But if you have systems, you will know exactly how much that type of business, or that type of role that you are giving that person is worth and what returns are going to come out of that individual. I'm not sure if I've answered your question.
All right, I think just to add on, how easy it is, very, very easy. Because what I would just say is, you have systems in place. You know how to do a process from A to Z. But maybe the issue is, are they properly documented? Because then what happens now is, it's now, I would say you want to move from a personality-driven system, right? Where you say, I know how to do A to Z, right? And move into more like a system-driven to then say, even if you are not there, even if you are in the hospital bed, people know how when a client comes or walks through the door, they know how they are managed, how do you account for the cash, how do you everything. So systems you already have, But the issue is, are they documented? Because then when you then document the systems that you have in place now, what it then does is it gives you consistent quality. Because you're saying we have standardized everything. This is how it's done from A to Z. So even if you are not there, if you take anyone from the street, just as an example, and show them where their standard operating procedure is, they can still come up with the same quality output as you would have done. So that's now the benefits now of having a documented system, because it doesn't need you to be there, but because it's there, it's written down and everyone follows. Anyone can come through and actually have the same output and of the same quality and consistency as you.
Thank you there, Thabo. There's another question right at the end. Yes, you can go ahead.
Very good morning. I just wanted to ask a question. It's not everybody who has a desire to get into business who's privileged and has finances in order to establish themselves from a sole trader, and they become a small individual business, and then eventually graduate into being an institution. So as an SME department, so to speak, or yourselves as an organization, what frameworks are there to support either via grants, skills transfer to the people who are not privileged to start businesses, but they do have the desire and the potential is there?
So rightly put, everyone, as we start business, majority of us, I think we're coming out of employment. And the next thing we realize, probably you're out of employment, or you say, let me, the common name, I'm doing a side hustle. Obviously, I think critical to starting a business is capital. But what type of capital are we talking about? Usually when people talk about capital, they look at finance as the only capital that they need. So like I've indicated, just giving an example for CBZ, we've said we're taking people from startup. When we say we're taking people from startup, is we've put specific products that speak to the level where the SME or the entrepreneur is. Do we need to start by pumping in money? Maybe not. Maybe this individual needs financial literacy first. So through our SME hub, we take you through the process of saying, these are the things that you need. Do we come in to integrate and say, maybe you need an investor? Probably you need to group up. I think there was a mention to say when students are at school, they are then saying, as we finish, we're going to group up and have maybe put some capital together. But as a bank, we're saying we finance someone not for failure. We want to finance someone to be able to grow. But sometimes someone just has an idea in their mind, which then need to be converted into reality. So we've put such programs in place to say, where do we start with this individual, with this entrepreneur, before they can then get to a point where now they can really say, I now have the muscle to then be able to compete in the market and get the proper financing. So those systems are in place to try and help startups to grow into proper SMEs.
Yes, you can add in a minute.
Yeah, so one thing I've realized is actually you don't need cash. What you need is to unlock value in your network. So I go to lawyer friends and I buy them lunch, and then they help me with legal matters. I'm saying you can be resourceful in how you access expertise and knowledge. If you're only just going to look for cash, even me, I'm actually using my network to be able to build and scale. Because I can't get finance from the bank before I put the structures in place. But I do have a network. I know people who I went to school with at St. Dominic's, at St. Ignatius, where. And sometimes what it takes is a conversation. Can you help me? And then you can get value. That is even more than the cash that the bank would give you.
Thank you, Nyasha. The gentleman there, you can go ahead, and then lastly, my sister here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. I'm sure. Nyasha, I'm a lawyer. You can take me for lunch today. I'm ready, you know, I'm good to go. I just wanted to comment on the systems that she was talking about and what the two speakers have just spoken about. There is a certain little gap which is there, which we as consultants fill in. I'm a natural consultant, I'm a lawyer as well, I'm a peer consultant. Remember, when you're starting out, you don't know everything. And sometimes you don't have the internal capacity. There was talk about contracts, etc. All of us as entrepreneurs here, do we know the NEC where we belong to? I'm a chairman of 2 NECs. So I am also talking from the challenges that we meet. Yes, you get your 3 employees. The 2 of you agree, I'm going to pay you $150. Yet your NEC has got a minimum wage of $250. Sometimes you then get that sort of a challenge. Once that employee is now leaving, they then approach us as NEC. I was being underpaid. And you are now stuck, sometimes with quite a huge bill. Where we now come in as consultants to assist you in your business because you don't have the capacity to do everything. Sometimes we come in to assist you with your payroll. Rather than you getting a payroll officer, I just run your payroll for you. Just give me $150 a month or $100 a month. That's it, rather than getting somebody who is full-time. And even where you are able to pay $150, where the NEC says the wage for that person is $250, we then show you how to make an application for an exemption from the NEC. You can then apply to the NEC. I cannot afford. All I can afford is $150. But it must follow that system that she was talking about. Have you done it systematically? If we have not, these things then come back to bite us. That's why I'm just trying to put in to say you may not have the capacity institutionally as an SMC, but please, you can outsource some of these things. Even where you meet some legal issues that are in there. Right now, I think the bankers, you might want to comment later on, we're dealing with a one SME given a loan by a proper commercial bank, 100,000. The bank is charging an interest rate of 5% per month compounded. And therefore, the SME cannot now afford the total, which is almost 160,000. Therefore, we also come in there from the legal side. But I didn't want to emphasize the legal, it's legal much, it's a bit of a speciality. I was just talking about these day-to-day things that we do that, please, call upon the consultants. They are not part of your employees. They just offer a service. But should you want a continuous service, the consultants will always talk to you about a retainer fee. Very small, call upon them any moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Some more advice there coming from you in terms of entrepreneurs and individual run businesses, that sometimes you can have a gentleman's agreement, but it might come back to haunt you. If you have got a mic, you can go ahead. Okay, you can use mine.
Thank you. There was a question on when do you put a board as an entrepreneur, and I wanted help from Batsi. Is there a cash flow blanket for us as entrepreneurship that we can say, now if I'm earning this per year, I'm now ready to put a body? Then my second question is, can you please add on the list of the things that you look for in an organization so that you can fund it? You mentioned the tax clearance, NASA, registration. What else so that you'll be ready? Thank you.
Thank you. The banker is in trouble today.
So the second one, I think it's the simpler one. It's direct to the bank, but I'll answer that one as the last. Let me attempt the first one. I think the message is, by all means, let's try to put governance in place. I think Nyasha spoke to say, I don't know if it's Nyasha or it's Samtasa. Sometimes it doesn't need to be so formal, right? We've got family-run businesses that we are financing. It's husband and wife. But all we encourage is to say, at some point, you must realize that for us to scale up, to grow, we then need to put in place governance structures. We need to put succession planning. It can be within the family, or you can go outside, preferably outside, because when you've got consultants or a board that is coming from outside, they're bound to be independent. They will give you proper advice. But there is no formula to say, grow your business to this size, then you put governance in place. But the whole idea is, as you are running a business, it must be within your planning to say, we must have governance in place. We must have a board in place. If you can do it as you start, the better. If you can do it along the journey, the better. Now, to the second question. Number one, go to any bank. You're going to be asked about your financial statements. Like I've spoken to say, have a culture of doing your management accounts. They don't necessarily need to be audited for SMEs. We are financing SMEs that are doing internal accounts. Number two, the compliance issues. Let's have profiles for the company as well. What does the company do? When was it formed? What history? Do you have the clients? What are the customers that you have, your key clients? Remember, I spoke about your CVP. It also speaks to that. Who are your key suppliers that you have? Are you not a hustler who is just saying, I pick from there? Even if you pick from, like, hustling, have it documented. These are my suppliers. Who are my competitors in the segment that I'm operating in? Do you know them? What are the advantages they have over me? What have I put in place to be competent in that field? The other aspect that I know most people are afraid of is the issue around collateral when they approach banks. And this is the reason why majority of you find it easy to go to the loan sharks. But guess what? The loan sharks, they ask for security. But the security they ask for, in most cases, they probably don't need a specialized valuer to say, if you're giving them your car, they would say, okay, I've given you 5,000, your car is worth 20. They would just say, give me your car. Do you know what value your car is? You don't know. But speaking on behalf of my own bank, as SMEs, that fear of security, we've addressed it as well. Through collateral registry, with RBZ system, we are taking in movable security for your borrowings. So we've said you need to feel free to approach the bank and get financing. We've also even gone to an extent of engaging insurers to also try and help you cover as far as collateral is concerned. But let's take note, when you come to the bank to borrow, it is not the security that matters. It is cash flow. So the capacity for the business to then absorb that extra burden that we are adding to the business is what is important. Then we then say, okay, for the sake of your colleagues who are the owners of the money that we manage as the custodian, what security can we put in place? Are you confident? Do you have the commitment that your business is a going concern? Let's put something aside in case things go south. But remember, for a bank, if things go south, realization of your security is the last resort. We move together. We come in and say, where is the problem? Do we need to restructure? Or let's discuss and see where your business is getting it all wrong. But if you go to a loan shark, I know, once you fail to pay, there's no discussion. Security is realized. Thank you.
Thank you, Badanai, and both want to add on that as well before we go to our last question, and then we.
Yeah, I know this issue of boards tends to worry people a lot because boards themselves come with costs and also some bureaucracy. But just the discipline and the rhythm of having a business meeting, either as a family you sit down and say, look, what did we do this month? What are our plans? And that's tracking the execution of whatever you have put in place. And having that rhythm of the discipline of having those monthly meetings. And most importantly, like what has been said, is documenting. You document your minutes, you document your decisions, and then create a file. You see, what happens is when you look back after a year, you are able to track and see how far you have gone. You are not depending on memory. You know how much money you've made, you know what decisions you made, what you did badly, what you did well. All those things, you have nicely documented them. And therefore, you are now creating that history of the business. So it's not about a big board or anything. It's just putting those disciplines in place.
Thank you both. Well, so as we head to the conclusion of today's event, to my panelists here, I'll start with you, Farai. When we invited you to come and speak here, obviously, when you were looking at the topic, there are things that you said, yes, I must be there. Yes, I want to contribute. Maybe some of the things are not part of the questions that I've been asking, but there are things that you felt, look, I can go there and contribute. If you can talk to us about some of those things.
Yeah, I agreed to come because you are my friend. Yeah, I think the key thing, number one, for me, maybe just to try and speak to some of the things that were being asked. Obviously, those are the concerns. Number one, if you are going to start a business, make sure you've got a viable business model or a viable business proposition, right? Test it. Are people buying, right? If people are not buying, it means there's no business there. Before you even talk about funding and so on, there must be a proper business case. And you'll find that you don't really need money to scale up a proper business concept. What you need is to be able to start, get going. You only need the money to expand or to grow. And then also things like systems. Again, it shouldn't be, systems are not an event. You start with basic systems. You start with just having even just a cash book, a receipt book, an invoice, then maybe the bank accounts later, the Zimras and so on. And then you go on, you now have maybe Excel, you now put in Pastel and so on. ERPs are late stage. We are talking of medium-sized businesses there when we talk of ERPs. And then also you were asking about the board. Boards are only necessary if your business has reached a certain stage. Because again, I've seen this, someone registers a company today and the next thing they've got 5 directors. You don't need them at that stage. Boards only come in typically when you are bringing in other investors into a business. But what you can have is what we call a board of advisors. So a board of advisors is what Nyasha was speaking to, where you have a friend who's a lawyer, someone else who knows about HR and so on. So you can form a board of advisors rather than the strict board, because when you talk of a board of directors has control over the business. So it's more a regulatory thing than an advisory thing. What you need is the advisory. If you are still small, you just need mentors. Or you need people like us, the association. We can guide you because we know, we understand the stages. And businesses grow in stages. Because if you try to do certain things very early, you're going to destroy your business because you're putting in, it's like trying to take a baby and you want to make them wear my suit. It doesn't work, So yeah, I just thought I would maybe just throw in a few comments, but seek advice. Because for a lot of people, the reason why they can't grow their businesses is because they don't want to seek advice. People don't want to pay. My colleague, the consultant, said it. If you look at our subscriptions, they're actually very cheap. We ask for what, $5 for our lowest subscription, $5 a month, $10 a month. It's very cheap compared to the expertise and the knowledge that you then access to be able to grow your business. So don't be afraid to spend. Don't always look for freebies. Don't think that getting money from the bank is going to grow your business. But it's more about I think my brother Bothwell was mentioning about the disciplines, what you do on a day-to-day basis, because growth is a process. It's not an event. Thank you.
Okay. So for me, I think I've come to the realization that there's a very big gap that exists between us as financiers and SMEs. We are sitting on the other side and we are saying, formalize so that we can finance you. SMEs are sitting on the other side saying, finance me so that I can formalize. But I think the message is to say, we are trying from our end to put in place systems that can then accommodate every business at any stage. But critically, for businesses, for SMEs, I think it's clear. The system is calling for someone who is able to scale up, who is able to get business, be it from the big corporates, be it from the government, that there's certain key requirements that you need to put in place. And among those is to say, formalize. And as you interact with the banks, our role is not only to say open accounts, our role is not only to say, come, let's give you money. We also are playing that role of advisory role, where you come sit with us. There are certain things that we can advise you as far as finance is concerned, as far as banking is concerned, such that when you go back, I think you're able to reflect and correct certain things. And we probably put you in a place where if you then want to get additional funding in your business, be it CapEx, be it working capital, I think you would have positioned yourself better. And by the way, majority of us, when we approach the bank, we ask for loans. It's not only about that. There's a lot that we can advise each other, but only when we open up and sit down to hear your problem or your challenges are we able to come up with the correct solution, which is peculiar to the challenge that you're facing.
Well, I came because I wanted to sell my book. I'm kidding. Look, what I can say is you don't need anything else. You already have. You have friends. You have, if you go to church, there is an abundance of resources around you. But you have to change your mindset to maybe it's the bank, maybe you already have their resources around you. And if you were to get out of here and you spend more time saying, what are the resources that I have around me? Who are the people who can help me with what? I think, we'll be able to scale. And secondly, consultants or coaches, they offer more value than the $200 that you pay. They are the people who are going to put those structures in place so that you can scale up. So you have everything, you truly do. And when it is something that's critical, pay, because you will pay somehow. If you don't pay now, the $200, you shall pay, you know, in future. And sometimes you would have actually given collateral to the loan sharks of your house, of your car. You lose that when you could have just spent, I don't know how much you charge for your consulting fees, but you could have spent $200 or $5 a month to future fit yourself. You already have everything. That's all I can say.
All right, thank you so much. Well, I came because of this thing. I think I came because of the issue of corporate recovery. And I'm happy Mr. Mkavi is here. He's a corporate rescue practitioner. So yeah, so I just wanted to say that I think from when we have dealt with a lot of these corporate rescues, I think key themes that are recurring in terms of why some of these businesses are going under, I'll just trim it to 3. We have one, which is capital mismanagement. So in this one, I would just like to say, I think there's a Shona saying that says, unzenza wechembere, wakatanga kumaumbwe. So you find that if you are a business owner and you are worried about where the safe is at any given point in time, you find even as you grow, you still have those same traits. And once you pull capital from a business, sometimes it's very fatal. Then the other thing is emotional attachment. So especially if a business once made money for you, so you then don't seek help because you're saying, no, but we've had better days, but at the end of the day, you are just, the business keeps on bleeding. Then there's the issue to do with failure to adopt to market trends. So in here, I just want to advise people that, so in the 1900s, as Mr. Nyajiga said, the open IMA business. So you could make a business model for 50 years, that would last you 50 years. But in our environment, because it's agile, etc., you'd be in a good business line if you can make a strategy for 3 years without refining it. Otherwise, for most of us, it's a 1-year strategy, and you refine, right? So we'd need to do that, and also let it be known that it's always ask help at the when things are still, when you have had the first signs. I would just liken it to maybe cancer, to just say the stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. So with stage 1, you find that they can give you even drugs where you just drink your pills, etc., and the tumor disappears. But when it's stage 4 now, size of a golf ball, whatever, that's when they'll then tell you that, you know what, your days are numbered. So what you would need to know is, don't come for help when, number 1, you no longer have cash. Number 2, creditors are now aggressive. Number 3, staff morale is low. Options for survival are limited. You should come earlier, because coming earlier now, what it then does is you still have cash flow. You can renegotiate some of the obligations. You can restructure operations to suit the existing cash flow, and you have multiple recovery pathways. And then I'll just end by just saying, so in business, there's this what they call the working capital conundrum, right? So sales are now declining, right? What then happens? Our cash resources are now dwindling. Then you no longer have enough cash to buy your raw materials. Then because you don't have enough cash to buy your raw materials, you have no production. Then because you have no production, you have no sales. You have no sales, you have no cash. So you find if these are 4 different departments, your production, etc. So the guys from the production, they'll say, we don't have raw materials, so it's not our fault. The guys from sales will say, we don't have product, so because the guys are not producing, it's not our fault. So make sure you're managing your cash and your cash flow cycle, because cash is king in this thing. Yeah.
And last but not least, from Bothwell.
No, sorry. Thanks, Kuti, for inviting me. I'm actually amazed. You know, I interact with a lot of young people who are in the SME space, and I'm amazed by their passion and their tenacity. I mean, we were talking about the education system. I think the education system, has improved, because when I look at most young people I interact with, they're prepared to take the risk, they're prepared to go into business, and I love and enjoy that passion. I think what's there is for all of us to mentor each other, be able to network. The network does not have to be with other people. Even amongst yourselves, you can network. You can form clubs where you are basically encouraging each other. Try to help each other to solve problems, be it marketing, banking, and share ideas. And I think with the SME institution, that also helps for collaboration and sharing of ideas. And some of the collaboration is not just finding loans, finding markets, just ideas and sharing experiences. We will learn from each other. But the most important thing when you want now to institutionalize, it's a mind shift that you need to change now from control to accountable. Being prepared to be accountable to other people. That's a very strong mindset. But otherwise, thanks a lot.
Thank you, both. And a round of applause for our panel. I'm sure it was a very insightful presentation. So one thing that I want us to go back to our different stations is to go back inspired and rejuvenated. And I've got one guy or one speaker who is really good. He's a power broker. He will tell you what a power broker is, but he's a power broker, and I know when he speaks, you will leave the room motivated. Can you give a round of applause for Mr. Walter Chimene, who's going to give us 5 minutes of talk to inspire us as we go back to our spaces. Walter.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, I have 5 minutes. In the first 30 seconds, where's the left? Where's the left? To your right? Up? Down? Left? Right? Forward? Backwards? May we be seated? Okay. Just quickly, because of my time, my first name is Walter. It's a name of German origin. It means ruler of the army or commander. My surname is Chimene. It's a Shona term. It means town crier. And I'm a power broker. So leaders come to me for 3 things. The first one are those people who believe they have a destiny and they want to create a map to move from where they are to where they think they deserve to be. Secondly, people who have curated opportunities. These are guaranteed opportunities where they want to optimize. And then thirdly, people who are close to people with power or money, where they've been asked the question, what can I do to change your life? You will be surprised how many Zimbabweans have failed to become meaningful and powerful leaders locally, regionally, and globally because they can't answer that question from someone rich or powerful. What can I do to change your life? So, quickly, in May, they are a group of billionaires who have got some venture capital firms, and they are coming into Zimbabwe directly or indirectly. And the interest is in entrepreneurial founders in Zimbabwe. Remember, many years ago, because of our political situation, we were outcasts globally in terms of funding. So now things are changing. So this coming May, they will look at these couple of things which you need to consider if you're interested in such an opportunity. Number one, what type of a king are you? In other words, know the difference between being a pioneer, a trendsetter, and a visionary. A pioneer, a trendsetter, and a visionary. There is confusion with some of our entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe on these things, so their pitch decks are very weak. Number two, orbit of opportunity. In your pitch deck, going on forward, learn the depth of your potential. The difference between how to overestimate and underestimate your potential. There are some people who get opportunities Because they overestimate, they bite more than they can chew, then they fail. Other people, sadly, which is most entrepreneurs that I've seen, they underestimate their potential. I think our panel has gone to town on the importance of knowing the exact demographics of your potential. Number 3, brand currency. The difference is in order to know the difference between talent, skill, and ability. Because in those circles, the global circles, you will be tested on exactly what you are claiming to be. Are we together? Number 4, network optimization. I think our panel also went to town. Once you are given what you have been praying and fasting for in mountains, how do you optimize? Are we together? The metrics to do that is important. You've seen Zimbabweans who've gone to regional platforms and global platforms, then they come back to Zimbabwe. 1 year later, they're broke, battered, depressed. They may have failed to optimize. And then lastly, I'll ask this question. Just show by raise of hands. How many billionaires do we have in Zimbabwe? 0 to 5? If you think we have 0 to 5 billionaires, raise your hand in Zimbabwe. 5 to 10? 10 to 20? 20 plus? And that response, ladies and gentlemen, tells you a lot in terms of how we need to implement what our panel has told us. And with that, I thank you.
Okay, a round of applause for Walter. I think in my next event, I'll give him more time because I know what he brings to the table. Thank you so much, Walter. And we've got some token of appreciations for our panelists, but we'll also get to a vote of thanks from Myri Rizo, who is the editor of The Herald. If you can come forward, ma'am, whilst my colleagues here are giving our guests. So I understand you want to start with Mr. Rousseau. Mr. Rousseau is the one who is sitting here. Yes. And the list that was given, Mr. Nyajeka is the one who is right at the end there. There's some earring. I don't think it's going to Mr. Nyajeka. Mr. Nyajeka is the one who is right at the end there. And Mr. Mtambanengwe is the one who is next to Mr. Nyajeka there. And Nyashapi, I'm sure you can see Nyashapi. And then that's Batanai, the last one there. Thank you so much. We appreciate, but the vote of thanks is for Myri Rizo. You can go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. A very good afternoon to you, ladies and gentlemen. You know, one thing I noticed is when you came in, or when I came in, when some of you were already in here, I saw faces that were not sure if they were in the right place and they had done the right investment. But now it's a totally different picture. I think many are saying you undercharged. They want to even top. Because the information that we got today is just amazing. I think you all agree with me that the way we imaged, the way we came in and the way we emerged are totally different people. Yes, let's get hands for this. First and foremost, allow me to thank Sam Mutasa. I think he's gone. You know, I was saying to my son, but who was sitting next to me, I didn't see him leave. Then he says, don't forget, he's the owner of this hotel. Maybe there are other doors behind that he used to leave. We want to thank him. Let's give him a big round of applause for his talk and the way he was even patient with us. You know, these people are so busy, and maybe so are we all, or most of us. But when you find someone spending 30 minutes, an hour or so with you, it means they find you important and they have a lot to give out. And our wonderful panel. Let's clap hands for them. The gentleman and one lady. Thank you so much. You know, these are reservoirs of knowledge, of information, not just your theory. They were giving us examples of how we can apply it practically and be better business people, be better entrepreneurs, not necessarily in the informal sector, but in the real world of business. So let's give them another round of applause. It's been great. And our moderator and director of ceremonies He did a sterling job. You know, each time I see him at any event, whether it's a Zimpapers event or any event, I know this is a top-notch event because he does it so well. Let's give him a round of applause. I almost said a standing ovation, but a round of applause will do for today. We want to thank our events team from Zimpapers, the too numerous to mention, and executive from Zimpapers who are here, and every one of us. Just pat yourself and tell yourself you did the right thing to be here. This is time well invested. Tell yourself, this is time well invested, in which you get a return on investment, ROI. Is that it? EU economics, before I start messing things around here. Thank you so much for being here. We had a wonderful time. And you will notify us, maybe today or maybe via our newspapers and various digital platforms, when our next public lecture is. This has been wonderful. This has been progressive. This has been fruitful. We want, almost said in Jesus' name, but indeed it is in his name. Thank you so much, everyone. May you all have yourself a wonderful, wonderful day, the rest of the week, the rest of the month, and the rest of the year. Thank you.